All right, today we are diving into the incredible story of Prambanan, a jaw-dropping temple complex in Indonesia. It's a place that literally reached for the heavens, was completely lost to myth for about 1,000 years, and is now being pieced back together stone by painstaking stone. Let's get into it.
And right off the bat, you can see the central mystery of Prambanan. You've got these stunning, spiky towers just soaring into the sky from the plains of central Java. But what's so wild is the contrast. These magnificently restored temples rising from a sea of stone rubble. Those are the ghosts of hundreds of other shrines, which makes this site not just beautiful, but one of the world's great archaeological puzzles. And that really is the big question, isn't it? How does a masterpiece of architecture, this huge city of 240 temples, just get abandoned, collapse into ruin, and then fade from history so completely that people had to invent legends to explain it? That's the mystery we're going to unravel today.
To really understand how it was lost, first we've got to appreciate what it was. This wasn't just some temple on a hill, it was the religious and cultural heart of a really powerful kingdom. It was a statement of faith and power, carved in stone on an absolutely epic scale. Just to give you a sense of the scale here, it was built way back in the 9th century, and it's the largest Hindu temple site in all of Indonesia. The whole complex is dedicated to the Trimurti. That's Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer. Shiva's main temple alone rockets 47 meters into the air. But get this, it wasn't just one building. It was an entire city of 240 individual temples. The ambition here was just off the charts.
So why build something so ridiculously extravagant? Well, that's a great question. Prambanan wasn't built in a vacuum. Its story is one of intense rivalry, a massive symbol of a kingdom reasserting its dominance and its faith.
To really get why it was built, you have to picture this rivalry. For about a century, central Java was dominated by the Buddhist Sailendra dynasty, and they're the ones who built the world-famous Borobudur temple. So when the Hindu Sanjaya dynasty came back to power, they needed to make a statement, and Prambanan was that statement. A gigantic, awe-inspiring answer to Borobudur, basically declaring that Shaivite Hinduism was back in charge.
And what's so cool is that we can pinpoint its beginning with incredible accuracy. There's an inscription from the time, the Shivagraha inscription, that tells us the main temple, the House of Shiva, was inaugurated on November 12, 856 CE. So this wasn't some mythical creation. It was a real, dated historical event.
But after all that ambition, all that work, the story takes a really sharp turn. This royal center, the heart of the kingdom, was abandoned. It was just left to crumble until it was barely recognizable. In fact, one of the first Europeans to see it described it as just a mountain of stones.
The fall wasn't sudden. It was more like a slow, painful decay. Sometime in the 930s, the royal court just up and moved to East Java. We're not totally sure why, maybe a volcanic eruption, maybe a power struggle, but Prambanan was simply left behind. For centuries, it just crumbled. Then, in the 16th century, a massive earthquake delivered the final blow, toppling the already weakened structures into a sea of rubble, and then silence for hundreds more years.
You know, when history is forgotten, it leaves a vacuum, and local folklore rushed right in to fill it with the amazing legend of Rarajangrang. In this new story, the temples weren't built by a king at all, but were created in a single night by a legion of demons, all commanded by a prince trying to win a princess's hand. History had totally given way to myth.
And this image from 1852 just perfectly captures how the world saw Prambanan for centuries. It wasn't an archaeological site, it was a romantic ruin, this testament to the power of nature taking back a lost civilization. This mysterious, jungle-covered giant is what early European explorers found, and it's what sparked the first modern curiosity about its secrets.
Which brings us to our final act, the absolutely monumental task of rediscovery and reconstruction. I mean, how do you even begin to rebuild something this huge and this broken? How do you solve a puzzle that has hundreds of thousands of stone pieces?
Just look at this comparison. It says everything you need to know about the challenge. On the left, that's the main Shiva temple around 1895. It's basically just a heap of rubble. But on the right, just a few decades later, that same heap is being meticulously put back together, stone by stone. It's an absolutely incredible journey from chaos back to order.
So how in the world did they do it? Well, the method they used is called anastylosis. It's a fascinating process. Instead of just building a replica, archaeologists worked to identify the original stones, figure out exactly where each one goes, and then reassemble the structure using as much of the original material as they can find. It is, quite literally, the world's most complicated 3D jigsaw puzzle.
But the restorers don't just guess. They are guided by a very strict rule. A temple can only be rebuilt if at least 75% of its original stones are found. Now, because a lot of the stones were stolen over the centuries for other construction projects, this rule explains the landscape you see today. The main temples are beautifully restored, while hundreds of the smaller shrines are still just lonely foundations.
And this chart really reveals the true scale of the work. While all 8 of the main temples in the central area are now restored, which is amazing, only 6 of the 224 smaller ancillary temples have been fully rebuilt. This really puts the ongoing work into perspective. The restoration of Prambanan is a multi-generational project. It's not over by a long shot.
And all of that incredible work brings us to the day. Because of this restoration, Prambanan is no longer just a ruin. It has been reborn. It's a living, breathing monument and a vital center for both Indonesian culture and the Hindu faith.
So today, it holds these two identities at once. On one hand, it's an active religious site, where you can see Hindu ceremonies connecting the present all the way back to 1,000 years of faith. At the same time, it stands as this timeless landmark, a symbol of resilience, with a very active Mount Merapi volcano looming in the background, a constant reminder of the powerful natural forces that have always shaped its destiny.
So Prambanan today is this vibrant crossroads of culture. It draws tourists from all over the world. It provides this incredible backdrop for the famous Ramayana ballet, but it's also a reclaimed center for the Hindu faith. And of course, it is still a massive, ongoing archaeological project, a powerful symbol of Indonesia's dedication to its incredibly rich past. So, from a forgotten ruin to a living monument, the story of Prambanan is this profound tale of loss and recovery. When you see the temples lit up against the night sky like this, you feel this deep sense of awe, not just for the ambition of its ancient builders, but for the patient modern hands that rescued it from silence.
Ultimately, Prambanan's story is one of ambition, collapse, and incredible resilience. A story that is still being pieced together, one stone at a time. And it leaves you wondering, as the slow and patient work continues, what other secrets from a lost kingdom are its stones still waiting to tell us?